Howdy, Desert Boy here. Hey, I'm going to talk to you today about, kind of how I got to where I'm at with my walk. These are my preferences, my thoughts, how I got to where the guns I have, and what I use to kind of drive those choices. And this is just my opinions. You got to find out your own. You talk to your own experts, get your own training, follow your local, federal, state, and firearms laws, ordinances, rules, permitting, training, all the things that you need to. But I'm just going to share with you what worked for me. So first of all, usually, and this is kind of an abbreviated version. I've got a longer video I'm posting that's probably about 20 minutes plus. But I'll see if I can get through this in a shorter amount of time to help you understand how I got to where I'm at. First of all, you got to decide, do you want a handgun or a long gun? Next, you got to decide what caliber, right? What kind do you want? Revolver or semi-auto? There's the long gun, semi-auto, bolt action, lever action, pump. What do you want? And then you have, what really comes down to is once you get those, or maybe before you go and look, you've already kind of assessed it. What's your skill and ability to use those? Because you want to get all the training and understanding and everything for that. And ones that you don't do well with or that you don't practice with, you're probably not going to do as well with unless you practice. And if you don't like it for some reason, then you're not going to use it, So a lot of different things drive it. But for me, there's 5 things that basically drive it for me. Necessity. At one point, concealability came into it. Then practicality, compatibility, and an opportunity, which is kind of preference, which kind of divide into little subsets of collectability and speciality. So let's get started. When I first got back into firearms in around 2009, I think it was, there was a shortage of ammunition in firearms, but I knew I wanted a 38 357 because I knew revolvers, and I liked the 357 as being a really handy round. So I ended up with this LCR. Now, there was I was in a Bass Pro Shops, and all the gun cases were empty except for one, and it only had about 10 guns in it, 15 guns. And as far as revolvers and 357, this was it. So I ended up buying it. I thought it looked kind of weird and all that, but you know what? This has turned out to be a real handy acquisition. And so it can shoot 38 specials and 38 special plus Ps in addition to 357 Magnum. So I got that one, and I said, you know what? I need a long gun. So what's a better long gun for plinking and just target practices than a 22? This is my Henry Golden Boy, and 22 ammunition was so short then that the only 22 ammo I could buy was 22 shorts. And it happens that the Henry shoots 22 shorts as well as long rifle and longs. So I got my long gun. So I got my handgun, I've got my long gun, I've got a self-defense caliber, and I've got a 22, but it's got 16 rounds of 22, and it shoots relatively quickly for a manual firing gun. So I was like, you know what? I really do need to get a semi-auto. Well, I didn't know much about striker fired or DASA and all that. All I knew was when I was a kid, I thought the 1911 looked cool because there was a toy called the Johnny Eagle Lieutenant. And this gun here is empty also. So 1911 and 45 caliber, that's what I opted for. Now, there was a little bit of a preference. It would have been more practical for me to get a 9. Most people probably get a Glock or something like that. But at the time, this is what I wanted. This is what I got. So now I kind of had my revolver, my semi-auto, and my long gun, right? So then I was like, yes, I do need a 9. I actually bought a SIG P226 Mark 25, the one that the SEALs used at times and other agencies. I didn't want to dig that one out, but the second one I bought was also a SIG Sauer, and it's an SP 2022, very popular with the French Army and police and so forth, the military. It's got a rail, it's a DASA, 9mm, holds plenty of rounds, full size, night sights and all that. And that was what I went for. So now I have my 9mm, I got my 45, I got my 357, I got my 22. But what about if I really need something to stop it? What if I moved to Idaho like I thought I was going to? Of course, I live in Montana now. Well, I wanted my 45-70 because I knew that was a very powerful round. And this guy would get the job done. So I bought that. And then I said, you know what? I've got to have a way, if I ever really want to go hunting someday and I want to have a longer range gun, because 45-70 bullets not as long a range, I need higher muzzle velocity. So I got a 270. Okay, now this guy's empty. This is my Howa 1500. Originally I had a Tikka T3 with some Steiner glass on it, but this was very handy. So now I kind of had my everything. The one thing I still don't have that I think most people would probably put on this list is a 12 gauge. I do not have one of those, but that would probably be the other thing. And that would fulfill the necessity. So anyway, I moved from California, retired, went to Nevada. So now I thought about concealability. I could actually maybe have a chance to get a concealed carry permit because they're not easy to get in California. So happened, Springfield Armory had a deal going on. They make these in 9 and 45 at the time. They're discontinued. But at the time, this was a small 45. So, you know, it's empty, right? It's a DASA, so it's like my SIGs, easy for me to operate, similar to my 1911, because you can set it up that way as well. And it had a special deal, nice fiber sights with white dots. And it had a special deal at the time where you bought it, you got a range bag and 3 more mags. So why not? But then as I got closer to getting my concealed carry, I said, you know, I really ought to have a 9. Now it kind of comes in once again to the opportunity and preference thing, you know. But concealability, I saw this P938 and I saw the Legion version, which had 7 rounds instead. I think the originals had 6. It's very much like a 1911. No bullets, no magazine in here. And it's all metal, which I prefer, with night sights. So I ended up picking that guy up. So now I was taking care of my concealability. I got 45, I got 9mm. Later on, I added, you know, and I already had a revolver, so I had my LCR. Later on, I added a Smith & Wesson 637, a Colt Detective Special, an LCR-X with 9mm, and a Shield Plus, right? Along with the 380 and the 32 and the 22 Magnum. So that kind of took care of my concealability stuff. So what about practicality? Well, I liked the 357 Magnum and I wanted to have it because I could use it against, you know, game or something like that, or provide protection with 357. But this guy isn't fun to shoot 357, so I had to be a little more practical and get me a full-size 357, right? This happens to be a 686 plus L frame. It's going to do the job for most things. And I said, you know, I really need a more concealable 9mm that has higher capacity because that's the way the world's going. And there's no magazine in here, there's no bullets in here. So I ended up, instead of getting the Glock for me, and I have shot Glocks and I've trained with them, but my preference was the Smith & Wesson Shield Plus. And I put a night sight on the front there. Gave me more capacity, 10 to 12 rounds, pretty concealable, and you know, striker fired. I needed to come into the modern world of striker fired. So it took care of my practicality, necessity, concealability, practicality, compatibility. Well, because I like revolvers, you know, and like 357 and 38. I also like 45. Along the way, I picked this up. This is kind of a preference and opportunity, but at the time, the one I had was a Ruger Blackhawk, one of 500, that was a special case hardened finish type thing in a 5.5-inch barrel, but I liked 45 Colt. So I picked up guns that were compatible and long guns, like this guy right here, this Henry 357-38, and because it was the pandemic, I decided to use this my home defense gun, and this 3X swings out of the way, and I put a red dot on it. And I thought that would kind of work for that, but it also gave me compatibility with my 38 357 guns. And I happened to pick up a 45 Colt and went with my 45 Colt. And so I was pretty happy with that, but as time went on, practicality came back into play, and I said, you know, things are kind of getting kind of crazy, so maybe I need to move into the modern era and just get me some kind of semi-auto. I didn't get an AR. Instead, I got a CZ EVO 3S1 Scorpion carbine, 9mm, no mag in here, no rounds in here. Put a Romeo red dot on it. It's got a 4 aperture sight, folding stock. So I just felt like this gave me some compatibility with my 9s, right? Which I've already checked that one and loaded. So now I was kind of moving into the more modern era. And so what next? Well, after all that, I said, well, I've got necessity, concealability, practicality, compatibility. Sometimes it's opportunity. So you run across something like, you know, I had got rid of my Black Hawk when I moved up to Montana. I said, I really need a Black Hawk, even though I picked up a Vaquero because Black Hawks are built a little stronger. And so I picked this guy up. Sometimes it's just, you're out there and you're looking around, and I ran across this guy in a case. I said, man, that is a really cool looking gun. It's a 365-380, so it's got a little bit less recoil. If you want to, you know, if you're getting to where you're getting older like me, it might be appealing. There's nothing in here or in here. And then I decided to fit it. It was optic ready. I put a green dot on it, right? And so it was just kind of a cool little gun. By the way, this Black Hawk, in case you're worried about it, yes, it's unloaded. It has no rounds in it. We can check that, make sure that's empty. And lastly, sometimes I like specialty things like the Colt Detective Special, right? Or like the Smith & Wesson hand ejector, or like this H&R 32 Smith & Wesson long. You know, a little milder caliber, milder than 380, more like a 32 ACP, but interesting gun. And I picked it up as part of the deal when I picked up the Vaquero that I got. I also sometimes like specialty guns, and this was one of those, the Smith & Wesson Governor. Shoots 410, 45 Colt, and 45 ACP with moon clips, and it actually has a night sight on the front. And it allows me, along with my 9mm LCRX, to shoot semi-auto ammunition in a revolver. So that's the short version of things. Necessity, concealability, practicality, compatibility, opportunity. That's how I look at things, with a subset of collectability and speciality to it. And once again, you start off, you got to decide handgun, long gun, caliber, type, and then assess how your skill or ability is with it. So that's how I did my walk for different things and what I got. I hope yours works out well for you. And as Free Desert Boy always says, you know, be safe out there, whatever you're doing. And if you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye now.